Hey, starting the second clip, um, first one was on what's appropriate to use to be able to wash paint with without causing any damage, any marring, any nicks, swirls, things that you don't want in fresh paint or used paint. This is actually going to be on the drying process. What is the options of drying a car with, what you can actually use to touch the paint without potentially causing swirls, scratches, or marring in it. So over here I have different ones, a little pile here. I'll start with one that most people use that aren't as experienced or as knowledgeable in paint preservation, I guess we can put it as, would be a plush microfiber. This one is actually a Meguiar's one. It's got a tag on it somewhere. But this is actually a double-sided one. One thing that I really like about this one, even though I don't use it once in a great while I ever pick this one up, is the fact that the corners, you can see it here, is stitched and rolled over compared to a regular microfiber. Granted, this is a cheap one. You can get it like Walmart or AutoZone. Let me see if we can even see it with a camera here. Focus it. There we go. Is that this has a stitch going down it, and then if you see the corner of it, it's stitched to the corner, and then most of these are heated up and melted, whereas on one of these cheap ones I would have to actually go and cut all these off, because if I took this on paint and went to wipe it down, the corner of it would end up rubbing across the paint. And now right here, wherever this corner rubs, which preferably is in the motion that the wind were to go over a car, so I'm going to want to rub straight up and down this panel, not side to side, because if you do things crossing the panel and you cause a scratch, now the scratch from this side to this side is 10 times more noticeable than a scratch that is vertically up the hood. So just keep that in mind. The same thing when you go to wash a car. Start and you go up and down. Everything is in the direction the wind were to go across the panel. That's the way that you want to always rub, whether you're washing a car, removing wax, polish, compounds. Same thing with a windshield, up and down the panel. This is the way you want to go. Nothing side to side. Because visually when you look at a car, you're going to look at it. I'm viewing the front of this vehicle and my eyes are sweeping from side to side. So if you have a scratch that's going from side to side, you're going to see that line. Now, vertically, my eyes don't normally want to search up and down a panel. Now, granted, if you have something like this that's aftermarket that sticks out, painted a separate color, your eyes are going to focus towards that. Therefore, you might see imperfections more so than you would on a car with just a flat panel hood. Granted, getting off subject there. But back to the drying process. Granted, vertical, straight up and down motions over the panel. Same thing whether it's a fender, windshield, roof, deck lid, doesn't matter. Vertical as the air passes. Just remember that. So, back to this. Granted, this has a rolled edge, so there's no sharp corner that can actually scrape or mar the paint. That's a plus about this. Now, this one is actually double-sided. This side is much more plush, soft, compared to this side. This side is good for drying compared to this side, which is more of a buffing. If you have a spray wax, spray it on the cloth. I don't prefer to spray it directly on the panel, especially if you're working outside. If it's a hot day, you spray it directly on this panel that might be also warm, heated up by the sunlight, might be too hot. You spray it on there, it instantly vaporizes, and therefore, even if it's a Mist and Shine, a Sherwin Shine, Meguiar's Quick Detailer, Mother's, whatnot, whatever your preference is, will spot up. Now, in that case, you're trying to buff off that with this, and a lot of times, if the panel's too hot, say it's 80 degrees outside, car sitting, no shade, which is a definite no-no. Always work in shade or indoors if possible. But now you spray the panel, the sun's baked it, It's vaporized. Now you have spots on a piece of panel that you had just actually cleaned. So now you actually need to take this, spray your mist and shine, your showroom shine, spray detailer, quick detailer, whatever you want to call it, onto this, which will hold and not vaporize as quickly, and then take it and rub it across that panel lightly, not adding pressure, because the more you add pressure, the more chances there are of swirling, scratching, and marring. Definite no. So even if you think the car's clean and you go to wipe this across there and you start adding pressure, so there's a speck of dirt here that you accidentally missed, you might have gone around it, or you did clean the car but it was a contaminant in the paint that was large enough that when you wiped across it, it broke that contaminant loose. It now clung to your microfiber, and now as you're adding pressure, you're pushing that contaminant back in the paint and dragging it back and forth if it doesn't stick in that one same spot. Most chances are with anybody else, especially on a black car, you'll notice right away when you go to add pressure and you go to rake that across there, because literally that's what you're doing, is raking that piece of dirt that broke off across there, and now you're scratching it. And what am I doing? I'm wiping horizontally. So now, scratch, 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 scratch. Whereas vertically, not as visible. Don't do this. There's a difference between this and this. What's the difference? This is in circles. Why not to do circles? Well, say that one piece of dirt broke loose, and if I were doing this, I'd have one, maybe two lines of scratches if it scratched to correct. While I'm doing this, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many rings, and it's not just a line, it's a circle now. Much more visible to the naked eye, and a lot more work to have to correct, because instead of correcting one line, now I'm correcting several circles. Just makes more work for somebody that's trying to have a showroom finish, or a new car that's flawless, that has no imperfections in it. So it's things that people commonly overlook because, well, they're what we call a weekend warrior, or just a first timer even. Say, oh, I bought a car. Well, prime example, this one right behind me. It's filthy. Whose is that? I don't know. Why is it in this garage? It shouldn't be next to a clean car, right? Oh, tragedy. But aside from that one over there that's nasty, I've cleaned it once for him. But we try to keep clean cars here, can't you know? But weekend warrior, first timer, they would think, oh, I'll just take it to the car wash. Ooh, a touch car wash. You know, it has the bristles. It's going to clean better. It's going to get all the dirt off for me. What's that? Abrasives on the paint. So your car might look clean, nice and shiny if you pay a little extra for the spray on wax and let it sit there, which is basically straight acrylic. What the acrylic does is it just fills in all the pits and cracks and voids and mar lines and swirls to make it look like you have a nice finish for about, I'll say 10 minutes, until the sun bakes it off the car, and then you see all the swirls that you just caused by going through that car wash. Even though the car might be clean, it's now all swirled and scratched, looking 10 times worse than it did beforehand with the dirt on it. So, go to a touchless car wash, they say, oh yeah, just power wash it, maybe use a little bit of brush on there, preferably not, hopefully not, even if they take a wash mitt, sponge, whatnot. But then when they go to dry that car back off, they just take this right back over the paint. It's a no-no. So, other options aside from a microfiber, which is okay if you have a guaranteed flawless contaminant-free surface. If you just clayed the car to strip it all from contaminants, this would be okay. 9 times out of 10, this isn't going to be good enough. So, we have this. A couple different versions of them. These are both waffle weave, which if I can show you the difference, get it up here. If you see, these are little pits in it. There we go. Pits in it. Each pit basically can encapsulate a bead of water. So what happens is, this is soft, just like a microfiber. Much more absorbent. Put this here. Much more absorbent than a microfiber because this is more of a clinger. It's not really meant for sopping up things, which this actually is because of how it's stitched over top of each other, but it is somewhat microfiber material. It does have a stitched but rolled over edge, and this particular one, for somebody that needs to get in cracks and crevices, it actually has corner pockets. Convenient, especially when you're working underneath of spoilers that have a gap in them. You can take your hand, slide it in, move it back and forth. Makes it much easier. All four corners on this particular one have a pocket on it. However, when using one of these, always fold it into portions, because you don't want to lay the whole thing out. You want, first of all, fold it into portions. It makes it thicker, which is good, because even if you accidentally applied pressure to it, which you shouldn't be, you should be using just the force of this. Now you have a softer rag, softer towel, that's still going to have the absorbance, but this side will absorb the most. And then once you think that this might have gotten dirty, if you went along the rocker panel or underneath the mirror cap, which a lot of people miss when washing cars just because they don't look there, you run your hand over it. Oh, now this side's dirty. I can flip it to this side, or fold it back open and take this side. You have, well, granted this one's a lot larger, so there's about 16 or more folds to it. So that's 16 plus portions that are clean that you can actually use. Same thing with this one. This one's more of a generic. It's a little heavier, not as plush compared to my other one. I tend to use this on older vehicles, ones that I know I'm going to have to correct paint. Anybody else, even other detailers that I know that are professionals, this would make no difference between choice of this waffle weave one compared to another waffle weave one. But these are both good ones. I prefer the top one. It's more plush. The plusher the better in this case than a microfiber, which tends to cling things more, where this one I can actually shake out somewhat or blow it off, whereas a microfiber you really can't blow a whole lot of things out of it, unless it's a powder, but even in that case you're still going to have some in there. Even when you think it's all gone, you wipe it on the car, it's still going to cause marring to the paint. Marring is literally scratches and swirls. So, but aside from these, there's also, which let me get it, saves a lot of time, is this. This is a water blade. Its prime purpose is to sheet water off of a panel. These are a great invention. It saves a lot of time. Granted, it's not going to get the car completely dry for you, but it's going to remove 70–80% of water. So, literally, I'm not going to actually rub it on the car, but if I have water that's from the top, granted you always drive from the top of the car down the windshield, down the hood, down the bumper, fenders, but you literally take this, granted contour of the car, and you drag it down it. One thing that most people overlooked when using one of these is to make sure that it's clean, because this is literally gel. Granted, sometimes the handles are hard plastic, which I don't like, because if you get careless, which I see a lot of people do, and they're dragging it down the car, the end of this hits a fender, a hood, or into the glass, and you can potentially cause damage that way. So this is actually rubberized also, like acrylic in a way, so it bends. You're not going to hurt anything with it. The only thing that you potentially do damage with this is if this is dirty and the blade that it has on the end of it gets dirt on it, because before I ever use this on a car, I spray this down, I run my fingers down the side of it, see if I feel any contaminants, any dust particles stuck to this, and if I do, I take a spray detailer and I spray this down, and then I rub my fingers down it, and then I spray it again and I rub it down again, just to make sure that when I drag this across the paint, I'm not going to be collecting any dirt, or there's no dirt on here that now I'm dragging across it and causing scratches. So the last thing you want to do, last thing I want to do, last thing I want to have to correct on a car, whether it's mine or somebody else's, doesn't matter. Just makes more work and more damage to the paint. Not there to do that. So this, yes, I do use a lot, but you got to take care of your tools like anything else. Make sure that this is clean, make sure that you clean the car properly. That way when you are using this on it,